Thank you.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Plan and Design Commission for March 7th, 2023. Mr. Fontaine, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Mantis,
Present.
Commissioner Quinlan, Commissioner Bruckman,
Present.
Commissioner Kirsch,
Present.
Commissioner Hecht,
Present.
Vice Chair Moore,
Present.
and Chairman Hainsbrother.
Present,
We have a quorum. Mr.
6
Chair.
present. Tonight, also note that
Recognize-
Councilman Stolberg and our student director, student commissioner Jackson, I'll get your last name at some point, Jackson, is here with us tonight as well. So we have three items of business tonight. We have minutes to adopt from December 20th of 2022, and then we have and minutes to adopt from February 21st of 2023. Then we have two items of scheduled business. One is a public hearing for a special use permit in the nature of a preliminary and final plan development to revoke and rescind any plan developments and development agreements for properties at 2787, 2789 Oak Street, which was formerly known as B'nai Torah. And then we have a public hearing for a special use permit in the nature of a preliminary and final plan development for Ravinia School. And that will include design review, a plat of consolidation, and variations from a number of areas of the zoning code. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve. Yes,
Chair, I forgive to interrupt, but there's a technical difficulty and I need to try something real quick.
Sure.
The streaming isn't working. Vic,
you
just
wish-
let me know.
sure. You want me to wait a second till you,
I request a moment
Sure.
to fix that.
not a problem. Technology is a wonderful thing when it works right. So while we're having a few seconds of technical difficulty, let me just, if it's okay, Carl, to set a couple of the ground rules for the public hearing part of this.
Vic says we can proceed.
We can proceed,
All right.
then we don't have to worry. All right, so back where we were. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the commission minutes from December 20th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chair Moore, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hecht. Any corrections or discussions? Yes, Commissioner, Vice Chair Moore.
I believe there were a few typos. I sent them on to Carl just now.
Okay, so I'm assuming that we can, with those technical corrections, vote on the motion as is, and you'll make those corrections, right, Carl?
That is correct.
Thank you. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Next item is consideration of Plan and Design Commission minutes from the regular meeting of February 21st, 2023. I can read. Do I have a motion for approval of those minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Hecht. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Moore. Any additions or corrections to that? Discussions? Yes, Vice Chair Moore.
On packet page 18, it's at the very bottom, it's listed Chairwoman blank asked if the existing remote parking lot will stay. I believe that's me. I said
Yeah,
that.
and you're Vice Chairman in this case,
I don't
right?
care about that part.
I know. I do. No, I'm just kidding. All right,
I have one other correction.
Yes.
As well. I wasn't
Commissioner
present, but I
Manthis.
did watch the video.
thank you.
And I had the distinct benefit of following everything along. And on page 5, it says Corporation Counsel Martinez said, this is not unique. It was actually Councilman Stolberg.
Okay. Steal my phone. Will you make those corrections, Carl, please?
Yes.
So does the motioner accept to change the motion slightly to say as amended?
Yes.
Okay, right, seconder?
Yes,
Okay,
second.
so we're voting on a motion to adopt the minutes as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes as well. All right, first item of scheduled business is a public hearing, number 2022-PUD-012, for a special use permit in the nature of a preliminary and final plan development to revoke and rescind any plan developments and development agreements for the properties at 2787 and 2789 Oak Street. We have a statement that we always read. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission. My name is Walter Hainsfurther. A quorum of the Plan and Design Commission being present, the members of the Plan and Design Commission will now introduce themselves for the record from my right, starting with Commissioner Bruckman.
Barissa Bruckman.
Adam Hecht.
Karen Moore.
Steve Kirch.
Daniel Mantis.
The Plan and Design Commission is charged with hearing applications for rezonings, plan developments, and subdivisions under the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations of the City of Highland Park. In all matters, we recommend to the City Council based on the testimony presented to us in the hearing. We are required to decide cases within 45 days after receipt of the transcript. All testimony is under oath. Both applicants and others who wish to speak on a particular case should present specific evidence as to why a proposal meets or fails to meet the standards of relief requested. For clarity of our record, only one person will speak at a time, and all questions will be directed through the chair. We ask that you make every effort not to be repetitive in your testimony. Finally, we will make every effort to adhere to the schedule prepared. For tonight's hearing, if additional time is needed on a matter, it will be continued until the next available agenda. And with that, I open the floor to the staff of the Plan and Design Commission to read into the record proof of publication and ownership.
Proof of publication and ownership are available for viewing at the Offices of Community Development, 1150 Half Day Road in Highland Park.
Okay. Before we even start, I will tell, because we have a nice turnout tonight, people who are going to address the commission beside the petitioner will have 3 minutes each only. That's the rules we always follow. And so we will have a timer on you. All right, Carl, you have a presentation for us.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner with the Planning Division. Thank you, Chair. This is a substantial PUD amendment, plan development amendment, essentially requesting revocation or rescission of the prior PUD and DA approval for this property, 2787-2789 Oak Street, also formerly known as the Benai Torah Congregation property. This is a location of the property in the city on the northeast side along the lake. It is currently platted into 2 separate lots. It has the Arlen School on it. This property is regulated by the underlying zoning districts, and it's also regulated by the, I call them, quote unquote, special approvals, but they are the plan development, which is the PUD is the acronym for that, and then DA, that's the acronym for the development agreement. So it's regulated by the underlying zoning and then the PUD and the DA approvals. The applicant states in their narrative that they tend to construct 2 new single-family homes, 1 on each lot, essentially meeting the underlying zoning. To proceed with that, the applicant has requested to terminate or revoke those PUD and DA approvals. Application summaries, this was in the report, both in the staff report and then also in the applicant's narrative. Again, to revoke or rescind the PUD and DA and eventually terminate the school's use, and then build 2 new single-family homes in compliance with the underlying zoning. Applicant indicates in their narrative, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, please refer to the applicant's narrative, their intention to demolish existing buildings currently used by the school after surrender of possession of the property by the school. The applicant requests to start prep work on the east portion of the south lot in the spring of 2023, this spring. and states they will not impact the school's operation and will adhere to the parking, lighting, landscaping, and fencing and other requirements related to the school until the school is surrendered possession of the property. So the zoning, so this property, it's split zoned. It has a couple different things going on. And this can be quick because there's no proposed construction. So this is just basically summary information. It's split zone. You have R5 along the west. You have R4, the yellow, along the east. The dashed or pimpled overlay is the lakefront, the LFOZ, the lakefront character and density overlay zone. And the LFOZ is in the second bullet point. And then I'll just also point out there's steep slope zone on this property, and it's also subject to the Lake Michigan Protection Zone regulations. Broadly speaking, future development will have to comply with these underlying, if the DA and the PUD are removed, revoked, future development will have to comply with these underlying zoning districts, the overlay, or they'll have to submit, the property owner will have to submit new application as appropriate, depending on future development. Public comments. So the current tenant, Judy did conferred with staff and indicated that their lease expires at the end of July. I also included a history of the property in the staff report, just the background, that it was the Benai congregation. They had a special use permit. And then after that, the Arlen School was and still is on the property. Findings of fact, the applicant requested findings of fact for this first meeting. So staff did have findings of fact in the packet. They were a more unusual set that I drafted because it's for revoking. It's for revoking or terminating a PUD and a DA. And of course, the zoning is the R4, R5, LFOZ, steep slope zone, and Lake Michigan Protection Zone. Those are consistent with the master plan. The PDC is a recommendation body for this application and can recommend revocation of the PUD and the DA. Staff had 2 conditions to consider in the packet. I'm paraphrasing, of course, because I try to keep my PowerPoint presentation short and to the point, so that the revocation or rescission, termination, whatever the correct word is, not be effective until and unless the Arlen School ceases its use. That the related improvements be demolished or returned to natural state, unless, of course, proper building permits duly issued for construction. And then staff would just ask or point out that the applicant could comment on how the school will operate if the applicant conducts the site prep work on the east portion of the south lot, just how to make sure that will not interfere with the operation of the school and the PUD requirements related to the school, traffic management, parking, et cetera, until the school has ceased the use. That's the presentation. I think this one was one of my shorter ones for a PUD and DA, but it's a different type of request.
Great.
So thank
So
you.
before I ask questions from the commission, just to restate what's happening here for the neighbors, right? This is going to revert back to the basic zoning after this, which means he's going to be able to, the petitioner or the developer will be able to build what the zoning ordinance allows, right? No special considerations, no additional density, and it results, as I understand it, in 2 single-family houses, and that's it, right? So from the neighbor's perspective, I am going to assume that while you're all here to get information, hopefully this is kind of what you, based on what I've heard in previous testimonies, this would comport more to what it is you would like to see on this site. So, we get that, just so you understand. All right, is that fair summary?
Yeah, Chair,
Carol?
on that note, I would,
Yeah.
actually, I would add, so again, there's no construction proposed as part of this application or this
Right.
request. The applicant indicates in their narrative, their intention for the properties to be developed with 2 single-family homes, 1 per lot or 2 total. And as you state, there is no design review or special commission review for single-family homes. They would be allowed to construct as long as they met building code, zoning codes with the benefit of a permit.
Right. And if they were to want to do something other than that, they would have to come back here and everybody would get notice, have the opportunity to come and tell us what they think about that proposal.
That's correct.
But today's proposal is take it back to what it is, which is R4, R5. I'm assuming that primarily R4 is going to govern on this, Carl, because it's.
Yeah, the split zoning regulations in our
split?
code are interesting. In the city of Highland Park, zoning is zoning. So that portion which is in the R5 must meet R5. That portion which is in the R4 must meet the R4. So if you have a home and it straddles the line, one part of the home has to meet the R4, one part has to meet the R5. And of
Great.
course, I know that well because I did the zoning board of appeals for several years before I joined the PDC.
That's not an uncommon way to do it. But having said that, this is a split zone, and I just want to make clear, the applicants proposed to do 2 homes.
Right.
That's not the only proposal that's possible on this site,
No.
but that's the proposal the applicant has made.
Right. And is that what he's allowed to build under the strict interpretation of the code?
The zone, you can do 2 homes,
But
certainly.
that's the maximum that he can do?
No, not necessarily.
Without coming back to us, I'm asking.
You'd have to probably re-subdivide the lot, so you'd have to come back for a subdivision, but,
Okay.
you could do more than 2 homes on that
But
portion.
they'd have to come before us, right?
3.25 acres.
Yeah. Well, plus there's the overlay district too, so.
Right.
Okay,
So there are some limitations there, but having said that, the applicant's proposing to do 2 homes, and one, on the southern part of the property, they'd like to
Start.
begin some site work prior to actually the Arlen School no longer being a leasee of that property. Couple of things, Mr. Chairman. One, as staff said, we would want to make sure that any such prep work would not interfere with the Arlen School operations of that parking lot in any way. Otherwise, staff wouldn't have an issue with that. Arlen School's there till the end of July. And I'm not sure when classes actually end, but they would still be occupying that building and have some staff there and such till the end of July,
They gotta move on.
presumably.
Still a lease.
Still a lease, right. Okay, questions of staff. Let's start on my left.
So that was actually gonna be my question, whether or not, it sounds like, staff spoke with the tenant and they confirmed that the lease goes through the end of July. But did they confirm whether or not they were willing to allow site work to go on prior to termination of their lease?
So that's a private matter between the 2 parties. And so from our point of view is the revocation and rescinding
Rescinding the.
of this approval should occur when the Arlen School ceases to operate there, when that use stops. So I understand it's July 31st, but it's whenever that actually happens.
Sure.
So should there be any changes to that private agreement, well, then this action would then change. So,
Understood.
okay, so that way we make sure that the revocation doesn't adversely affect that operation, because we want, for not only the Arlen School, but also the neighborhood, and making sure that things work there. Having said that, the applicant did indicate that they did want to get some site work done on the back portion of, the eastern portion of that southern property, and would not interfere with the parking lot. I guess, we have a few months here in the early part of the building season that they want to get ready to go, and then they're going to hit the ground running, I guess, once Arlen School is closed.
Assuming they have a permit to do so.
Of course, they have to get building permits and such, yes,
Right.
that's correct.
Okay,
All set?
other question? Nope. Steve?
This may be a more legal question. Is it really necessary that we make 28 findings of fact to revoke 1 PUD?
This is a major amendment. We did consult with Corporation Counsel about that this is a major amendment, and that's why it's back before you. It's not a typical thing that we do. I know it's kind of an atypical situation.
I was kind of wondering the same thing. Where in the code provides for revocation of a PUD, and I didn't see it.
So let's recognize Corporation Counsel to opine
So
on that.
I was interested as well if there was something set forth in the code that would govern this very
Unique.
seemingly rare matter. And I didn't see anything in our code that kind of gives any sort of guidance on how this should go. That being said, in answer to Commissioner Kirch's question, and to piggyback off of Mr. Fontaine's point, because this is something that doesn't happen every day, I think that is what makes a more robust findings of fact appropriate and just a good idea.
So it's really belt and suspenders. I understand it's kind of strange, but, you know, we did consult with Corp Counsel, and they're like, well, it is a major amendment and then it needs to go to the PDC, because we were thinking, can it go straight to council? We did debate that, and this is the interpretation of Corp.
I was wondering why a property owner can't abandon a special use that they've got an approval and revert back to seemingly more,
Well, an
They
ordinance
get it
is a
on
law.
land, right?
An ordinance is a law, and so they can't
that's why I was
rescind the
asking
law.
whether ordinance-
Right, they don't have the authority to
Yeah.
rescind the law.
And-
And they also have a development agreement, which is a contract, and they don't have the authority to unilaterally
Yeah.
rescind that.
And
And the zoning runs with the land.
Yeah, and I actually
Correct.
asked if the special use expires, if action isn't taken to kind of trigger it, right? So oftentimes, there'd be a year, you'd have a year to apply for a building permit, for
Right,
instance,
right,
right?
And there is some provision that
There
is
is,
a
right.
time to commence that, you know, technically speaking, the applicant is, they're not in compliance with.
Right.
And so that could be a reason that the council would revoke a permit, and we typically don't take those actions to council. And instead, if someone chose to kind of reinvigorate a planned development, they'd have to go back and ask for an extension of time to commence.
Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chair, you want to go next?
No questions.
No questions. Commissioner Hecht, any more?
no, mine was answered.
Okay. Commissioner Bruckman,
No questions, thanks.
Jackson?
No questions.
All right, let's hear from the petitioner, if they'd like. And please do me a favor, when you get to the lectern, please, I need you to raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and please spell it for the record, because we have a very remote right now, note taker.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Katie Janke Dale. It's a long one. It's Katie, Katie. The last name is Janke, Jahnke, space Dale, Dale. I'm from the law firm of DLA Piper, and we represent the applicants for this matter. The applicants for this matter are two LLCs, both of which are owned and controlled by Scott Goodman, who's a Highland Park resident, and unfortunately, Scott couldn't be here tonight. He had hoped to, but had a conflict. So I'm here, as well as representatives from the contract purchaser of the northern lot. I'll be very brief because Carl did a great job summarizing everything. So shown here is the property from an aerial view. Lot 1 has Benai Torah on it, the site, as well as Arlen School. Lot 2 is additional parking and vacant. And like Carl mentioned, Arlen's lease is set to expire at the end of this school year in July. That's kind of always been the arrangement between Scott after he acquired the property in 2017 and with the school, that it would be basically a 5-year term. As discussed, we are proposing to build the site with two single-family homes. Scott's under contract to sell the northern lot, Lot 1, to a purchaser who, like I mentioned, is here tonight, who plans to improve it with a single-family home. Scott will retain Lot 2 and will be constructing his second home on that site. Like Carl mentioned, we are already in for permit for that lot, and he's hoping to start site prep as soon as the weather breaks. He's working with a local contractor who has a lot of experience building homes in Highland Park. And when we get to a later slide, I can talk about the plans to not disrupt with the school's operations while we do that this spring prior to the end of the school year. And then once the school is gone, and we'll work with Corporation Counsel and staff to draft this language. But once we've confirmed with staff and they've confirmed for themselves that the school is out, then we would start demolition and construction on the remainder of the site. So I think this aerial shows probably best what the plan is for that preliminary discussion and how we can do it without interrupting the school's operations. All work to be done prior to that would be on the Lot 2, the southern lot highlighted in green, and east of that existing parking lot that you're seeing. I've also talked to Scott earlier today about, how we can avoid disrupting that parking and the circulation. All access being done by construction workers would be as far south as possible. And of course, his contractor would coordinate with the school, make sure that there isn't any conflicts as far as their busiest times for pickup and drop off and the contractor's busiest times for vehicular traffic. Carl already talked about this, but here's the zoning map with the two lots shown, the split zoning. I think most of this was covered. This special use actually dates back to 1995 when the synagogue was still there. It has been amended a number of times. The first amendment to allow for educational use was actually prior to Arlen School being in there, and it was affiliated with the synagogue. And like I mentioned, Scott acquired the property in 2017. We've done various amendments since that time, and some of which were reversions back, given some stops and starts. But like I mentioned, this time we're in for permit. We have a contract purchaser here at the table. And so we're very confident that we'll be moving forward with this proposal. Here's just a quick timeline, starting site prep as soon as the weather breaks, closing on the sale to the contract purchaser shortly after the school's lease is up, starting construction in earnest shortly after that, and then both families hope to be moved in fall of next year. So with that, I'm available for any questions. Like I mentioned, we have representatives from the Lot 1 contract purchaser, and appreciate your time and consideration tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the petitioner? We'll start with Commissioner Brockman. No questions? Nope. You can go. You have no questions. That's fine. That's fine, Jackson. Commissioner Brockman?
I don't have any questions either.
Commissioner Hecht?
No questions.
Vice Chair?
No questions.
Mr. Kirch?
No question.
Amazing.
No questions.
I have two.
Of course.
Okay. One is, I understand that, you can access the site at times without interfering with the parking lot. Where are the contractors going to park during that period of time?
I think we'd work with the school and identify spaces that are underutilized by staff or not utilized by staff. I would assume those would be also at the furthest south because those would be the least desirable spaces. I know when we looked at this previously, dating back to like 2018, 2019 amendments, there was ample parking. It was really the circulation that was an issue. So we wouldn't be impacting that. But that's a great point that we would need to work with them to carve out a couple of spaces for people doing the work.
You need to coordinate that. And then I picked up on something you kind of mentioned as an aside when you had the timeline up there. Something that both families would move in 2024, I think you said. These are single-family homes, right?
Correct. One in each home.
So one on
Yes.
Lot 1 and one on Lot 2.
Correct.
So we're clear on that.
Yes.
All right, I don't have anything else, so thank you.
Great.
Any of the neighbors who wish to offer testimony tonight? Just line up at the podium. If you would raise your right hand, ma'am. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good
You have 3 minutes, by the way.
Thank you. It'll be very short.
Thank you.
I'm Matilda Manfredini. I live at 76 Walker Avenue in Highland Park. My last name is spelled Manfredini. And I am directly across the street from the property that is planned to be developed. My husband Sam and I are delighted that there will be 2 family homes on this property. And I have just one question I'd like to ask.
Well, you need to talk to me.
Okay,
So
of
what's
the
your question?
applicant, please. And that is, do we have an exact start date and completion date for the home that's going to be built on the south lot? And will the neighborhood be apprised of when this is all going to begin? Because with spring coming about, We will have a lot of traffic in our neighborhood with all the cyclists coming through, the pedestrians that are walking down to the lakefront, as well as the traffic that's incurred by the school. So I'd like to know if we will be apprised of this start date and what exactly is the timeline for start and finish of this home on the south lot.
We'll try and get you an answer.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Would you raise your right hand, please? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and your name?
Joe Passini,
Spell it.
Eassini. I live at 2740 Oak Street. I understand that the south lot is going to be constructed on First, and there's going to be some site prep work. The only thing that I'm concerned about is that the lakefront overlay zone and the bluff is protected during the construction, because the lot directly south had some severe erosion on their bluff. And then about 2 or 3 houses down, 2 houses have recently done some massive construction to reinforce their bluff, and one actually built a massive wall to protect their house from falling into the lake. So that's basically my concern, and hopefully that when the permits come in, that this commission will enforce the setback of the lakefront overlay zone and the lots will be 40,000 square feet. Thank you.
I'm going to ask very briefly if Director Fontaine can explain
Yeah.
how the safeguards are made during construction.
Well, it's 2 things. So, the building permit is partially in, it's been in for a bit. They had some revisions they have to do. At the building permit phase of the project, it's verified that they are not affecting the bluff, that they are not in any steep slope zone or any setback zone that would require relief. If they were, they would need to come and apply for relief. So they can't do that by right. And then, if they're not, then they'll be able to be issued a permit. Of course, they need to do their erosion control and sedimentation and protection of sensitive areas prior to getting construction started. And so that's what would be the provisions. In terms of starting and things like that, I mean, I'll defer to the applicant about that.
We'll ask them.
Yeah, okay, but I just want to make clear that.
I just wanted to assuage his concerns about protecting the bluff, right?
Sure.
And in terms of following the ordinance, if, they have to comply with the zoning ordinance under this revocation.
Correct.
So, there are safeguards even there where they will have to do a spot survey to show that they have the adequate setback, and, they can't build up to the property line because the property line is the edge of their property. And we're not changing that tonight. So, there are safeguards to make sure they comply, and if they wanted to vary from that, they would have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for that, and you would get notice of that as well. Councilman Stolberg. I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Chair.
you had your hand up.
No, I just wanted to say, and, shoot me if I'm wrong, Joel, a lot of the neighbors have gotten used to coming before this body because of the zoning change. Keep in mind, as this reverts back to the original zoning, and think about other single-family homes being developed in your neighborhood or throughout Highland Park. So most likely, unless there's any variations required, they're gonna do most of it by right. And as Chairman Haynes further said, if they seek relief, most likely that relief will come before the ZBA, not before the Plan and Design Commission.
Right.
So, and you would get notice,
That's fine.
there would be a sign posted, and you would get notice for the ZBA as well.
And I understand it's confusing if you don't deal with it every day.
Right.
So we're happy to make sure that you understand what's going on here.
Yeah, Joe, and you
All right?
can email me anytime.
Thank you, Mr.
We're
Pacini.
very pleased with the proposal.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Pacini.
As far as staff knows, there's no request for relief on those.
As far as we know, there's
right.
none, right?
And then, Mr. Chairman, just one other thing. I mean, building permits are issued and are good for a year. They're valid for a year and can be extended thereafter if need be. And in Highland Park, building permits are extended. That's
Yes.
common concurrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Julie Gartner, and I live at 2776 Oak Street.
Can I have your right hand up and you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Ms. Gardner. You got 3 minutes.
I'm wondering if there's a provision made for when Open Lands opens, how that will possibly interfere with the property on the south lot, if there will still be access to Open Lands, and there's some parking spaces there that I believe are part of the Arlen School.
I think that's not correct. I believe first of all, the parking area and the access to Open Lands is north of the school, and it's basically.
Oh, I'm sorry, north. I got north and south
I know.
mixed up. Yeah,
And it's
okay.
basically the extension of Sheridan Road as it kind of winds
Yeah.
through there. That is not part of what is being discussed tonight, so that will remain unchanged. Open Lands, I believe, or some organization other than this property owner owns that property. And so that will remain. Yes,
Mr. Chairman, you're right. Open Lands is the property owner, a crosswalker to the north,
Thank you.
and that parking area that you're talking about. There is a special license that was struck between the city and Open Lands for that parking lot. So this property owner isn't Open Lands. This is Scott Goodman
and they're not a
that
party to
property.
that agreement.
Now, Open Lands has, I understand, over the years or several years ago, has signed some of that to the Arlen School, and they were able to do that through that agreement. And so what it means when that happens is that the Arlen School was taking on some responsibilities. When the Arlen School leaves, it reverts back to Open Lands. That's who the agreement is with the city. And so the city has an agreement with Open Lands. Open Lands can assign to another entity, but that entity's not there, then they assume the responsibility as they had before.
So it'll remain open to the public.
And my other question was, will we have any visibility to the plans for the homes that are being built?
I would say the answer to that would be no. This is a private owner who has got the right to build as long as it meets the building code and the zoning code. And just like you wouldn't want somebody looking at plans if you were adding on to your house, they have that right as well.
Are those plans that are filed with the city confidential, or are they subject to FOIA?
We can't make copies of plans. There's certain limitations to the plans that can be given out for privacy reasons and copyright reasons.
Yeah, I was wondering if that's a FOIA
Right.
issue.
When you do FOIA, certain things are exempt from
Right.
being able to be disclosed because of those.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Anyone else? Shouldn't have asked. Yes, ma'am. Raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do, thank you.
And your name?
I'm Judy Goldstein. I'm the founder and executive director of Arlen School. I just want to, focus mostly on the site prep work that's been referenced in the plan to commence in the spring. For some of you may remember from prior years that we had to do extensive transportation studies in terms of figuring out the turnaround of all the vehicles, which we have no control over the size of, because our school districts use anything from, they contract with cabs, small taxis, minivans, and 66 capacity buses. So the turnaround is very critical for the drop-off and pickup of the students. We will be in session through July, and I just have a concern about encroaching on any of the space in the parking lot, even though the lot is large. When we have visitors, parents and school district representatives that come to the school for meetings, we always ask them to park on the south end of the lot, facing south against the fence that's currently there along the tree line. And it appears as if the proposal for the site prep work would cut off some of that lot, which might result in the turnaround for those vehicles, not having a sufficient space to be able to do that. And as you all know, there are no vehicles that can be sitting on Oak Street. So they all have to be sitting in the parking lot. And they sit there and usually wait for a good 15 to 30 minutes, depending on when they arrive for in the morning and in the afternoon. So I just wanted to mention that for
Appreciate
safety purposes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Anything else you wanted to add?
No.
No, okay. Anyone else? Okay. Can I have the petitioner back up there? So do you want to share any information about the projected start and completion date of these two homes?
Yes, again, for the record, Katie Jenke-Dale on behalf of the petitioner. So as mentioned earlier, we hope to get started ASAP. We obviously are respecting the Arlen schools there until the end of their lease. We would start immediately if possible. I know the Lot 1 contract purchaser is anxious to get going. So we would get started right away and go as quickly as possible. Ideally, we would be done within a year. I think realistically, it would be between a year and 18 months, just knowing construction timelines typically, but we're anxious to get moving. There is, just to reiterate, there is no anticipated variations or relief that we would be coming back for, but obviously if some arose during permit review. And then I did, like I said, Scott's not able to be here tonight, so I was just consulting with him. And Judy, he said he would absolutely be talking to you and coordinating before doing anything, including figuring out parking when you have events or other things going on at the school. So just wanted to make sure that you knew, even though he's not here tonight, that Scott would 100% be talking to you before anything on that portion of the site got moving. Sorry I couldn't find you before the hearing.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Anything follow up with Petitioner? Okay. Let me just suggest that you need to get something on paper with the school.
Absolutely.
Because, one of the conditions is absolutely you cannot interfere with the transportation situation for the school, because we did spend quite a bit of time working with the school and working with Scott to iron that out. And the safety of these kids is paramount in all of this. So you may need to find a different place for your contractors to park, right?
Yep,
And
absolutely.
that's
We'll coordinate
something
that.
I would trust that you're going to be able to work out, and then you'll have to erect the proper barriers to make sure, that kids can't wander over into a construction zone, right? It's a busy place. They're big machines, and I think they tend to gravitate toward that sort of stuff. So,
Absolutely.
all right. Anything else that anybody wants to add? Okay. We have findings of fact in front of us, so I would suggest that what we want is we have to do this as two separate motions, Corporation Council, one for the development, and if so, how do we want to split those up?
I would,
Development plan, and then, what do we have? We have the development plan, and then we have the development agreement, right?
so the plan development and then the development agreement, and certainly you can vote to revoke one and not the other. I don't know what that would do. And I always advise to take two
Let's
separate
take two
votes.
separate motions, okay. So the first motion should be to adopt the findings of fact with conditions for revoking the preliminary and final development plan.
Recommend.
That way. Recommending to city council, yes.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Kirch, second.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Moore. Any comments or discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Fontaine, please call the roll.
Commissioner Mantis,
Aye.
Commissioner Bruckman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kirsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Heck,
Aye.
Vice Chair Moore,
Aye.
Chairman Hainsfurther.
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays. The motion passes. The next motion would be to,
Rescind.
are there findings of fact with the development agreement? I didn't see that.
No, there are not findings.
Yeah,
of
that
fact.
Do we just need a motion
It'd just
to?
be a recommendation
So,
to
a
rescind.
motion
that
to
development.
recommend to the city council that they rescind all existing development agreements.
So moved.
Moved by Vice Chair Moore, seconded by, by Mr. Hecht. All in, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Mantis?
I'm sorry,
What? Hold
did you
on.
have discussion on this one before?
Oh, I should. Is there any discussion? Thank you, Marcus. No discussion, so please call the roll. And amendments, yeah.
That's how I took the all development agreement.
All developments agreements.
Yep.
Sir,
Okay.
right?
Commissioner
Okay.
Mantis? Yes, I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
Aye. Commissioner Bruckman?
Aye.
Commissioner Kirsch?
Aye.
Commissioner Heck?
Aye.
Vice Chair Moore?
Aye.
Chairman Hainsfurther.
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays. That motion carries. These will appear before the city council on, when, do we know?
The tentative date for this would be the first city council
Will be
meeting in
quiet.
April, which I think is April 10th.
Oh, waste.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, this will tentatively track to the April 10th city council date.
So this probably will be on the April 10th city council meeting.
Final.
Please, neighbors, keep an eye on the city council, on the webpage at the public meeting section for city council agendas. Okay. And thank you all. Have a good evening. All right. We'll give a second for the room to clear.
People were here from Virginia School.
No, I knew what they were here for. Were you on the commission when we did this the last time? I mean, they had a lot to say.
No, yeah, I was here
This
when they
Yeah,
moved property lines
yeah,
to be. I
they
was
had
on
a
it for
lot
that.
to say.
What is they gonna, even in PUD building on the south lot?
Yeah, at one point, yeah. I don't know why they didn't do it. All right. Next item of business is public hearing number 2023-PUD-001 for a special use permit in the nature of a preliminary and final plan development for a project to construct additions to an existing school building known as Ravinia School and other structures. Can you get them to go downstairs, please? Other structures, including design review, plat of consolidation, and variations for floor area, subdivision code, landscaping, lighting, and other variations at a property commonly known as 763 Dean Avenue. We will read the script again. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission. My name is Walter Hainsfurther. A quorum of the Plan and Design Commission being present, the members of the Plan and Design Commission will now introduce themselves for the record from my right, starting with Commissioner Bruckman.
Marissa Bruckman.
Adam Hecht?
Karen Moore.
Steve Kirch.
Daniel Mantis.
The Plan and Design Commission is charged with hearing applications for rezonings, plan developments, and subdivisions under the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations for the city of Highland Park. In all matters, we recommend to the city council based on the testimony presented to us in the hearing. We are required to decide cases within 45 days after receipt of the transcript, and all testimony is under oath. Both applicants and others who wish to speak on a particular case should present specific evidence as to why a proposal meets or fails to meet the standards for relief requested. For the clarity of our record, only one person at a time will speak, and all questions will be directed through the chair. We ask that you make every effort to not be repetitive in your testimony. Finally, we will make every effort to adhere to the schedule prepared for tonight's meeting. If additional time is needed on a matter, it will be continued until the next available agenda. And with that, I open the floor for the staff to the Plan and Design Commission to read into the record proof of publication and ownership.
Proof of publication and ownership are available for viewing at the Offices of Community Development, 1150 Half Day Road in Highland Park.
Great, thank you. Is he getting him out of there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you're gonna do it.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Verhop, do you have presentation? You're like our presentation machine these days.
Yes, I'm the staff liaison to the Plan and Design Commission.
I know, but we often see other planners here.
Yes, and I'm also will be reprising my role as a zoning board staff liaison for the next few months as well. So
Oh, well, lucky you. It doesn't sound good. That must mean Kelsey left.
Oh, I'll see you.
Chelsea went on to another employer, she got a promotion, went to LaGrange.
Okay.
Village planner there.
She lives in a shack outside the range.
Okay, so the 763 Dean Avenue, the Ravinia School. So this is the presentation for the plat of consolidation, design review, and planned development, which is the PUD is the acronym for that. Again, my name is Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner in the planning division. This is the subject property. The school proposes 3 additions onto an existing school building. This is in the report, an addition on the north, on the west, and then on the south. And to accomplish this, the applicant requests the following: a special use permit in the nature of a planned planned development, preliminary and final consideration concurrent, with variations that I'll get into, design review with variations that I will get into, and then a plat of consolidation. So right now this is, well, it's actually several tax parcels, but it's essentially the school parcel on the west, and then the park district on the east, and then there's a middle strip down the middle, which appears to be city right-of-way. I'll keep it very brief on that, but the right-of-way should have been vacated in the 1920s. But we're going to get that vacated now. We have the ordinance. It was dug up. It's from 1927. I'm actually looking forward to taking up to the county recorder to see if they reject it or not. But I don't think they will. We consulted with Corporation Counsel in advance. But anyway, so the right-of-way will be vacated as the council intended for it to be in 1927. And then
Tony Bloomberg was on the council.
right. And then my understanding is that the east parcel, which is currently owned by the school district, will be acquired or conveyed to the park, which is owned by the park district, will be acquired and conveyed to the school district, and so then it will all be consolidated as one property. The property surrounded by frontage on the west, east, and south. It's kind of a through lot and a multi-corner lot all at once. This is the applicant's site plan. Please note that we've now tilted. So north is on the left, south is on the right. So you have Roger Williams, which is the south, running here. And so there's various improvements that are proposed, and the staff report did discuss them all. And of course, the applicant's plans were in the packet, but essentially there's 3 additions, the 3 red ones here. Those are additions to the school. The one on the north is for schoolrooms. The one on the west is for schoolrooms. The one on the east or southeast is for the kitchen or cooking facility. Then the applicant proposes to essentially redo the existing parking lot and then expand and create new parking lot area here. And again, there are minor other changes, mech equipment with screening here, then some changes to the playground area. This is a summary of the variations being sought for the Chapter 150 zoning relief for those that the PDC makes a recommendation, PDC standing for Plan and Design Commission. So FAR relief, which actually doesn't come before the Plan and Design Commission a whole lot, because that's a single family zoning district requirement. So usually those types of things go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Of course, depends on the context. In this case, the applicant chose to do a voluntary PUD because there's design review with it. And this is a non-single family improvement. This is a school or institutional type improvement. The applicant, based on the site plans, there was relief requested to the Article 8 off-street parking for dimensions. The applicant may choose to revise that between now and the next meeting and comply, because that dimensional relief was somewhat minimal in nature. It was all within several inches or half a foot approximately. The exact dimensions were in the staff report. Then the Article 8 off-street parking requirement for required parking spaces to go on a required front yard that would be along the north. So for those, the Plan and Design Commission makes a recommendation as part of the PUD. The Plan and Design Commission makes the decision based for the design review, and so there is zoning relief to the landscaping section. 1 for required parking islands. There are 3 required, none are proposed. The applicant stated their reasoning for that in the packet. Part of that also was related to snow removal. And then the 5-foot landscape buffer. I don't like to use adjectives to describe. I like to say what it is, but the plans were in the packet, and I'll run through them here. So for building design. This is a rendering of the north addition, and, you know, the applicant did provide this indicator here as to what is the new part versus what is the existing. This shows the west proposed addition, which is a first floor addition. And this shows the southeast, which is the food service addition, and how it connects to the existing building. The applicant stated in their narrative that they are working with the State Historic Preservation Group, Board, or Commission. I forget the exact nomenclature for that organization.
Yeah.
This is not locally.
I believe it's an office.
This is not locally designated. Locally, the city of Highland Park does not have a historic protection for this property.
Nor is it national in this case. Braeside is, this one isn't.
So the PUD is the plan development's a voluntary submission, but they needed the FAR relief. Public benefit is required for the FAR relief. The applicant, in their narrative, stated, you know, one benefit, their public school, and then obviously then they stated they're seeking enhancements such as LEED certification. The setbacks are met for this property. They actually get they have a unique setback because they're a school. A school is allowed to exceed the height limit for a zoning district as long as they have an extra setback that goes 1 foot more for every foot higher they go over the limit. So long story short, that's been calculated and they meet both of those requirements. The off-street parking, they're going from 31 total off-street spaces to 63. Staff is still working with the applicant to confirm that this will meet the requirement as determined by the zoning administrator. I do believe that proposal does exceed the number of staff that they said they were going to be increasing by. Again, there was a dimension relief element. My understanding is the applicant may just choose to revise that because it's a matter of 3, 4, 5, 6 inches. Is with the aisle. Aisles have to be 25.675 feet in width, and I think theirs was several inches below that. The FAR review, these are all the numbers, but the main takeaway, so the relief requested is the difference between what is proposed versus what is allowed. And so that request is going to be 28,016 square feet, or a floor area ratio of 11.8%. So that's technically the relief request, but I think the context does matter. And it should be pointed out that while that is the entire request, there's also this incremental difference. So the school as it is already exceeds the limit. It's what we would call legal non-conforming. So the existing total is this 51,059 square feet. The proposed is the 63,488. They're only allowed to do this up here, the 35,472. So they're already non-conforming. So while the relief request is this larger 28,000 and some square feet, the incremental difference is they're actually building 12,429 square feet more, or 5% FAR if the percentages are easier for people to understand the floor area limitations. A subdivision review, this is preliminary. The applicant does need to submit the plat of consolidation, but it wouldn't be that hard to figure out what they'll need. I mean, so this is one of those plats. It would be minor, and it's the way this has been interpreted in the past. It actually wouldn't need variation because the nonconformities are pre-existing, and they're not increasing the nonconformities. The property already doesn't meet that the lot shape requirement. And it already is a through lot. So those are the only nonconformities. And then the one comment there I already talked about, that's the Kincaid right-of-way that the city council intended to be vacated back in 1927 and will be completed shortly. Landscaping, the applicant is working with staff to verify the required plantings and relief in terms of the quantity provided. The applicant has already been working with me. Unfortunately, there just wasn't enough time between Thursday, Friday, and Monday to sort that out in time for this meeting. Foundation relief is provided. There's no 5-foot buffer foundation relief needed. There are buffers around all the additions. The only area where it's not is an allowed area along the kitchen facility. There are certain allowances for openings or mechanical equipment or vehicular use area where you don't have to do it. But like I said, the quantity is still being verified. I already talked about the vehicular use area. I don't think I put the landscaping plan in my presentation, but if I need to pull it up, I'd be happy to pull it up. It was included in the packet, and I already talked about the 3 parking islands. No relief is needed to lighting, at least as far as I know at this point in time. There were one or two very minor comments on the lighting they were in the report. There was one question outstanding to the applicant about, I think it was the uniformity average, and the applicant may have already responded to me again. I apologize. I just didn't have the chance to review that on Friday or Monday or today. 49 total lights are proposed, combination of pole and wall mounted. 3,000 Kelvin correlated color temperatures proposed for all the lighting. That was in the photometric plan with the foot candles. I will note that one of the spec sheets had 4,000 highlighted. I would just ask the applicant clarify that. The bug ratings were met. Fixtures are fully shielded. The foot candle requirements on the photometric sheet met the requirements. The height requirements were met. In my report, I said how high they were going. It was either 15 or 16 feet for the pole-mounted lighting, and I can't remember the highest wall-mounted lighting. Most of them were 7, 8, or 9, or 10 feet. The one of them might have been 14 or 15 feet in height. It was in my report. City comments, nothing of a substantial nature. Nothing of a substantial nature. Public Works, WDO permit will be required. Plat of easement for underground stormwater detention. Civil Tech had comments that the applicant should respond to. It was a full page, but 1 page. So I didn't really, sometimes it's hard to summarize and I don't want to twist words by paraphrasing. There's 1 page of full comments the applicant should respond to. It's in the packet. It was in the posted packet. Forestry talked about potentially reducing a few parking spaces to protect trees. The building division really more or less is a fire code. Fire code review, they had standard comments. I forgot to include police on here. We did send this out to police. Police had no comments. The police department did review this. Then again, the planning division, had other comments, mostly minor in nature, that were included in the report. The applicant has already started compiling responses to them. That's the presentation. So staff recommend the PDC open up the public hearing, take testimony, consider the evidence, and if appropriate, direct findings of fact. There are not findings of fact for this. The application should also be continued to a future date as appropriate. Thank you.
Questions for staff?
I have none.
So when we're talking about the FARs and the site plan, is that the current existing does not include the consolidated lot, correct?
No, but I'm not sure there is any floor area on the other property existing.
No, but if it becomes one property, doesn't that change the FAR?
Yeah.
So the calculations were done, the applicant submitted the calculations in a way that assumed the property would be consolidated. That's why they have to submit that.
So they went and backdid the current FAR?
Yeah,
including
actually, Commissioner Kirch, I should make this clear. I apologize. So the property is currently, right now, as it is it's multiple parcels divided by right-of-way in the middle. But this application is submitted and assumes that it will be consolidated. And though that plat of consolidation hasn't been submitted, the applicant verbally tells me they intend to submit that and have that catch up as soon as possible.
So essentially, the property, the FAR that it's over, it must be 30 or 40%, not 21.
Yeah, well, right, actually, kind of seeing where you're going with this, yeah, if it would already be non-conforming, it would be even more non-conforming,
Without
right?
Because it's on a smaller lot.
Yeah, so you could almost
So-
argue this is almost bringing it more into compliance.
So I believe that if you look at it currently versus what it would be with the consolidated lot, the FAR would come down quite a bit.
Well, maybe this is calculated based on the assumption that,
It is.
I think this is all calculated based on the
Right.
assumption that all those
It's one
properties are
property.
combined.
I get that the new total
I think the old
is
one
that way.
is
I'm wondering, you think the old one is recalculated?
Yeah, that's what, I see nodding heads, and I heard
Yeah, it
Carl
would-
say they assumed,
Right,
when they calculated the existing FAR, that it was already let's call it a pre-consolidated lot.
Right, but if they were to build this without consolidating the lot, again, I'm
It would
just,
be worse.
I would like, so here's
would
my,
be worse.
here's a better question. I would like to know currently with the current lot, what the FAR is.
That would be easy enough for me to get. I don't know if I'll be able to calculate that on the spot, but that would definitely be easy enough for me to get. I just want-
I don't think you need to do it on the spot, but
But
No, I just
for
not- no.
purposes of tonight, it's
Yeah.
assuming the entirety of the lot, right, Carl?
That is
Both
correct.
lots, everything. And so just to be clear about the right-of-way, the council did vote to vacate that. What did not happen in 1927? So that did happen. I know Carl he had said that, but it might not have been exactly clear. It needs to be recorded at the
Right.
recorder of deeds. That's what didn't happen.
But-
We
but-
have from the city clerk's office, a true and accurate copy of what happened back in 1927, and we're making sure that that's recorded, and the school district has consulted with their attorneys, and we've consulted with ours about that.
But today, though, the property beyond that right-of-way is Park District property. right?
Correct.
And that is
Have
going to be
agreement
conveyed
with
to the school district.
Yep.
So, even if so it's still getting to Commissioner Kirch's point.
Mm-hmm.
If you took the existing school property with the vacated right-of-way and you did an FAR calculation, it's going to be considerably more as a percentage than if you took the new combined property, right? And so what he's asking for is, tell me what it is currently so that I can judge how much of a reduction we're really getting, right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And I
I-
will just mention, there is no further reduction that could be had.
Well, we know
That's
that.
as much land. as-
We know that.
So I just point that out.
No, but I don't mean to
I just-
You're-
that's all.
you're-
niggle it, but my point is, if you're saying there's only a 5% increment more FAR, and I'm saying there's actually going to be a substantial less
Right.
FAR,
yeah,
just from that analysis.
I completely understand what you're asking and requesting. I think it's astute analysis, and I'll be happy to provide that for the next meeting.
And then my other question is on the parking. We have not determined what the parking requirement is?
Well, no, I'm attempting to conclude that with the director before the next meeting. I know that they're more than doubling it, 31 to 63, and then I think I just have to.
Do they have to have that many, do you think, or you don't know?
Well, if I remember correctly, there were more spaces than staff, and of course, the commission's allowed to weigh on these types of things as well. Ultimately, it's a decision by the zoning administrator as to what the requirement is, but it's a public hearing.
We have not finalized that yet, Mr. Chairman, but I will say that my understanding is that the school is providing more parking spaces than staff. You have to remember, there are visitors, and there are meetings that are had at the schools from time to time, and so that needs to be accounted for as well, and we will have that finalized by your next meeting.
I mean, I will just note that the new parking is taking out a playground, so that's, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hack?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Brockman?
No questions.
Vice Chair?
No questions.
I don't have questions right now for the staff. I will for the petitioner. All right. So, Dr. Lubefeld, your team want to get up here and get sworn in and
Yes, sir.
have something to say to us, right?
We always have something to say to you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here.
Usually it's
Always
filled
good.
with expletives, but that's
Never,
a whole other.
never. Certainly not on live TV.
Raise your right hands, please. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. When you get up to speak, just state your name, spell it for the record, and away we go. Welcome, Dr. Lubefeld.
Okay, good evening, Chairman, Commission, staff. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm joined with members of our architect team and our landscape engineering team. So a couple of points. This may be the most exciting project that we ever bring before you due to the architectural and historical significance of Ravinia School. As Carl and Joel say, it's pre-existing legally non-conforming because the school has been there before any of these laws were, and it's been a fun and really cool project to find out that the City Council of 1927 vacated the road, that the Park District in 1928 created the park, and that in the 80s it was rechristened. So I do want to make a few comments to the commission. Number one, with the historic approval of our community of 72% voting yes for the referendum or the bond issuance, this is one of the first projects to be completed. And we're grateful to the community, 72% yes vote to authorize us to go forward. And this is one of the major projects. This project is also going to increase the population of the school by roughly 100 students. It's going to go from what's called a 2-section school, where there's 2 classrooms per grade level, to a 3-section school, where there's 3 classrooms per grade level. There's also going to be a consolidation of self-contained, what we call low incidence, high needs, special programming for students currently spread across the district where space is available. We're going to be deliberately and intentionally creating spaces that provide opportunities. One of the reasons we need additional parking spaces because we're increasing the number of staff due to increasing the number of students. What's really special and what may or may not be in the plans, we may or may not have even shared it, is with the intergovernmental agreement between the Board of Commissioners of Park District Highland Park and the Board of Education, North Shore School District 112. We've conveyed certain other properties that used to be owned by the school district to get this entire plat for School District 112. We've also committed to retaining Métis Watts Park, which has been a treasure in our community for nearly 100 years, to the degree that our educational system can conform to it, and it will be an open public park on our property, which is something really neat. We're also redoing playground space to do what's modern and referred to as accessible playground space. So it's playground space that's significantly larger than the current playground that we're accustomed to, that we grew up with, and it's designed for all children. It's inclusive, it's accessible. You can be walking, you can be in a wheelchair. You can be able in use of all your limbs, or you could have limited limbs. So the whole focus of the Ravinia School revival and the Ravinia School project is for the present and the future. From the design that touches to the history, and I'm learning a ton. We've got a member here. We're working with Susan Benjamin. We're working with Elliot Miller. We're working with real superstars in compliance with the Illinois State Historic Preservation Office, Department of EPA, Environment, Natural History, and we're learning about the pond-in-pond architectural significance from the early 20th century. We're learning about Van Bergen and Buck and Jens Jensen and all this cool architectural stuff that I know the chairman understands.
The chairman is smiling.
The chairman understands this way better than I do. I'm learning a ton. Our architecture team is working to really retain the wow factor and the awe factor for the Ravinia community that has existed, even predates the city of Highland Park and all of that. So to conclude my initial remarks, we're increasing the number of students. We're deliberately designing it for the modern world. We're retaining and highly respecting the history of it, and we're actually going to have a history space. We're going to have a recordation as required by law and everything, and we're also going to celebrate this. I also possibly have an Eagle Scout in our community that may be able to perform and pursue his Eagle Scout work, restoring the park. So we've got a lot that's involved that isn't part of this, but it's neat. It's Highland Park stuff. It's nice stuff. I want to share it with you. I do have our experts here that can talk about more technical things, if that pleases the court.
I think
or the
we
chair.
need to hear a little bit from them. While they're coming up, I just want to say that, when I worked on the high school at a volunteer, and I've worked on every school building in town, as Dr. Lubefeld knows. There was a big issue about a building on the high school property that's a 1914 building. It's B building. It's the one almost on the corner of St. John's and Vine. And the initial proposal at the first referendum that failed was to take that building down. And one of the things that we learned was it may not be historically significant from a standpoint of being recorded by the city or the state or the government. I happen to work on a campus where we have mid-century modern buildings that aren't able to be landmarked, but yet it has a unique and special place in the community, right? And so the sensitivity in dealing with that, and I want to compliment your architect from what I've seen, you guys did a great job of blending some very new aspects of this school in with the historic context of it and the look and feel that the community is going to see. So, I mean, I know we're going to get into design review. I just wanted to throw that out there in the beginning, that you should be commended for the really thoughtfulness that you put into this proposal in terms of the architecture, right? The planning stuff we could talk about, but I think the architecture part is really good.
Chairman, can I introduce Stuart
Sure.
Brodsky from White and Company? All right, Stuart. Yeah.
Take it back
Good
to your
evening,
boss
everyone.
and tell him that you deserve a raise.
Do I need
Promotion.
to, should I spell my name?
Yes, please.
Okay. So Stuart Brodsky, Stuart. Brodsky is Brodsky. And Carl, were we going to bring up?
Oh,
that
you need
other-
to be, yeah, they swore in. They swore him in the
We
beginning.
swore in all together.
Swore him all together.
I and we. Is it already up here? Okay. We've already talked a lot about the land, so I think I don't have a lot more to add to that, other than you'll notice the additions are spread around the building. That's kind of representative of the challenge we've had to integrate the design educationally into the building and also be sensitive to the architecture. So rather than putting one monstrosity in one location, we very sensitively looked at maintaining one-story architecture where it is, putting a kitchen in an appropriate place that doesn't require bringing more paving onto the site, combining additions with accessibility into the building. And the part that you don't, I was looking for the pointer here. It
Where's the
probably
big,
can't-
have we graduated from the big stick?
Extra big.
Have we graduated from the big
Mickey Mouse.
stick?
That is a really big
Okay, Mickey
hand.
Mouse hand.
Okay.
We only have the finest technology in him.
No, that's okay. So where the hand is, you might know that we're literally reconstructing the center of the building, and I'll show you that. And that's resulting in some changes on the exterior, which we've worked carefully with the state, the office, the preservation office to make sure that that is in keeping with the building. We've studied some different options.
And a lot of that is being driven by accessibility, correct?
Actually, I'll just skip to that real quick. So this unusual diagram here, so you can see this is a section through that center section, the blue areas that you see here, those are where the existing levels are currently. So you cannot get from one end of the building without going up, then back down. So it prevents an accessibility, a safety issue, an equity issue within the school. It literally, from code to anything you could imagine, and there's really no way to solve it. We'd have to put a 6-stop elevator, maybe 8-stop elevator in to really make that work. So the diagram on the bottom with the red lines show where the floors are being aligned. And that provided some benefits. It got rid of some very, very undesirable space in the basement that they were holding some classes down there, but now we can move those up. It also created the opportunity on the second floor to create a very grand, appropriate, central, modern library within the school that's both picks up on the character of the building as well as taking advantage of the opportunity of being central educationally. And then, so I want to, my technology here. So this is the renewed facade. We have to realign the windows to make them work with the new floor levels. The other thing that, if you've been to this school, probably many of you have, when you enter the building from a security standpoint, we've realigned, we're going to be realigning all the schools in the district to be safe and secure and have an appropriate way to enter the building so that visitors can be greeted appropriately and kept from running through the building without going through the main office and being checked in appropriately. So we've utilized this wonderful tower in the arch, which already says entrance, but right now is really not the entrance. And when you enter into there, you'll be in a vestibule, you'll be able to be checked in, and the new administration will be adjacent to that. So we've had to realign all those windows, and then up on the second floor, we're looking at some expressions, either arched or rectangular windows that'll be very large and bring daylight into the library above. So it'll become a real fixture piece. So we took what's really a problem and turned it into a huge benefit, resulting in a better looking building than what's there and a better execution of it. So I think we've already kind of walked through the buildings. I thought one thing we could talk about are materials I'm sure you want to hear about that.
Yes, we do. Have you got samples with you?
We do.
Good.
And maybe just kind of point to this at the moment. It's pretty simple in a way. There's brick, there's roof, and there's metal finishes, whether the window frames or the fascias, the rakes, the eaves, clad in metal. And so there's three primary building materials. One is red brick. So we've selected a brick that matches. It's got a sand finish. It's got some range to it that's consistent with the existing building. We will match the mortar. Right now, it looks to be the majority of it is kind of a beige sand mix standard mortar, but we'll confirm that. We're working on confirming that in more detail. So this is the predominant material. We are using some articulation on some of the areas of the building. You'll notice on here that we're going to utilize some brick patterning around the windows to make it a little bit more playful. That part of the addition, some of the younger students are going to be in that addition, and we want that to be to work with the scale and be more attractive and welcoming and comfortable for them, so they can look at those almost as little mini houses as they approach the building. But all clad in the same red brick, consistent language, window patterning, really meant to, the roof and the window patterning is really meant to be at the scale of the existing building, break it down, and deliberately asymmetrical, because there isn't a lot happening that's symmetrical about the building, and we don't want to create any artificial ways of doing that. The addition is also quite long, so we looked at ways of bringing the shaping and the size of the classrooms where they needed to be to take advantage of that. So it's kind of a crafting of that. So the metal finish will be pretty much a simple, for windows, a medium bronze anodized window finish, good, durable, long-lasting, matches the existing fascias. And then all of the rakes, eaves that are clad in metal will be the same range or tone of brown. It's literally what's there now. So we're not proposing to change that. The existing building is roofed with wood shake. It's in deteriorated condition. It is not a ventilated roof system, so the heat and the sun has really taken its toll on it. It requires a lot of maintenance, very, very costly, and actually quite difficult to get in this day and age. So we're proposing a synthetic shingle, same color of what would be essentially a weathered shake shingle. Once it's up there, the material would not be noticeable. This will work in an unventilated deck application and be long-lasting and cost-effective, and keep the building looking really great without quite as much maintenance. And those are essentially the three materials that we're proposing. What else can I say? In terms of window fenestration, it's going to be pretty much the same gridded pattern, the pond and pond window pattern, and then we're introducing arches when we can to kind of blend some of the combinations of styles that occur throughout this building. And I think that's the majority of the material that we had to present that was in here. Trying to think of anything else that would be worth saying. Landscaping, you'll notice that around the building in our landscape plan by code, we have to put in the 5-foot foundation planting around the building. So that's actually going to be an improvement too, because I don't believe very much of the building has foundation planting. In fact, a lot of the plantings are pulled to the perimeter of the site, making it difficult to see into the site, which we're going to correct some of that where appropriate, not the park or the landscape park in the back, but where it is for the frontage of the street. So from a security standpoint, you can see from the street toward the front of the building, but still see landscaping. The entrance courtyard will be improved and include new landscaping plantings too. So it's really a full redo of this building inside and out. We're really here more to talk about exterior than the interior today, but we're going to carry all of these wonderful ideas into the existing building.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we want to hear from any of the other experts tonight since they're here? I would like to talk to the traffic. If somebody's here to talk about traffic.
I think Josh can address that. Yep.
Huh? Big Josh, yeah. And state your name and.
So my name is Josh Kapp. I'm a project manager with Erickson Engineering. I do want to state I am serving as the interim traffic engineer, so I will do my best to answer your questions.
Mr. Corcoran, around somewhere.
Mr. Corcoran had another obligation tonight, so I am pinch hitting in his absence.
For the record, I've known Steve from a past life. So let me just ask questions, if you don't mind, and express a little bit of concern, not concern, but questions. You know, I'm not familiar with the traffic pattern at Ravinia, right? I am at Wayne Thomas. And when school is being, coming in and letting out, you cannot get down Summit Avenue. It's a nightmare. And that school is pushed farther back, right? And they have a much longer ability to queue up and turn around. And yet, there are cars all over the all over not only Summit, but down the side streets as well, waiting to pick up their kids. We have a turnaround here, right? We have a separate place for buses. I appreciate that. And we have this fairly shallow turnaround. How are you planning on controlling traffic during these peak times? And I know the study says one thing, reality in this case tells me it could be a different situation. Mike, I don't know whether you want to answer it or the traffic guy wants to answer it.
Sure. Josh can fact check me.
Yeah.
The nice thing is our principal, Courtney Nordstrom, who's been our principal for like 9 years, she works very closely with the Highland Park Police Department. And we do our absolute best at every campus. And physically, we do a better job at some campuses than others. The traffic at Ravinia School has recently been improved in terms of the traffic flow and the way we're utilizing the triangle. Mm-hmm. So I will rely on Principal Nordstrom and the police department to continue their work. We also subcontract to First Student Transportation, and we often have their own bus supervisors, for lack of a different title, who actually are out in the street moving their buses. We have that at Elm Place now temporarily. We've had that at other schools to make sure that their flow is completely out of the parent driving and drop off. So we're simply going to continue to do that which we do. Some places we do it better than others, arguably, but we always work with the police to check it out. We check it, we track it, and we'll change it if we need to.
Well, all I can do is report, and it's not impacting me, but I hear it from my wife who's going out in the neighborhood all the time, what a mess it is. And so, I just think that, I appreciate what you're saying. I don't know that, what we can do about it, but it's something that I think you need to continue to watch, not only at this school, but every school. I mean, I've been on St. John's when Indian Trail is coming and going, and it clogs up St. John's, right? And these are, in the case of Wayne Thomas, in the case of this one, at Wayne Thomas, it's the only way really in and out of the subdivision, right? So if you can't get through Summit, you can't get in or out, right? And I'm worried about that happening on Roger Williams, that it's going to become so crowded. And I know that at Wayne Thomas, again, because I live there and that's my local school, people have had problems with people parking and turning around in their driveways, right, to avoid this. And so traffic's really an issue. And I have not seen police out there doing anything. And from what I understand, it's not necessarily their role to police that. But
No, they work with us in planning, Mr. Chair.
Well, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no.
Something's breaking down because it's happening at a number of schools, right? So I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to vote against this because of the traffic.
Thank you.
But I think you really do need to monitor it and work with not only the police and your school population, but you got to have to talk to the neighbors, right?
Yes.
Because in a big neighborhood, not just the ones that surround the school, because I guarantee you that traffic is going to be the number one complaint you're going to get once all this happens, right?
I'm actually looking for compliments about the traffic at this site, so I'll be
Okay.
sure to share those with
Well,
you.
hopefully you will.
Thank you.
Right? And I appreciate that.
Can I add
Yeah,
something on
sure.
traffic? So I'm also worried, and we saw this, my kids were at the high school when they were doing the renovations, and they were very, very strict about when you drive up there, you cannot drop kids off anywhere but the drop-off zones.
Right.
And they would ticket people who were dropping off kids who were, when we get stopped at the stop sign on St. John's, if you let your kid out, you'd get a ticket. If you pulled into the park.
Somebody's driveway, you'd get a ticket too.
Yeah,
Vice Chairman Moore, if I may, we don't run our schools when we're doing construction. We will be relocating the entire school as we've done for the last 5 years.
That's true.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm saying afterwards, because you're gonna have so many more kids there, that you're gonna have a lot more traffic at the end of the day and the beginning of the day, and I have a feeling that you're gonna see people dropping off their kids somewhere in downtown Ravinia to make their way over to school.
What we're going to do, Vice Chair Moore, is the increase in population is going to be staged in over several years. It's not
Okay.
going to be upon opening. And we are going, again, the nice thing about the Triangle land, we are going to continue to work with our current sequence, which has not been, knock on wood, as problematic as in some other areas. And we're going to make sure that we can phase it in. We'll get the consultation. We want to be good neighbors, and we want to continue to work with our families. We also do encourage biking when the weather's nice, and walking when it's safe with other families to reduce traffic. Also, busing your children is the best
Good
way
luck
to
with
get there.
that. Good luck with
Yeah,
that.
but
No kid in Highland Park walks to school.
Yeah.
It's like when you get to high school, nobody takes the damn bus.
And Josh, if there's anything else.
I know.
Yeah, so just to kind of quickly highlight on the existing traffic pattern, right now, the pull-off parallel parking along Dean Avenue is currently utilized, I believe, by 3 school buses and is also utilized for parent drop-off. The kind of ring drop-off that's on the south side is primarily used for parent drop-off and pickup. The turning movements are restricted into that lot, so it's right in, right out only. Some of our traffic reports do indicate that there are a few people occasionally making the left in or left out.
Highland Park drivers?
I'm shocked that people in Highland Park don't follow the rules.
With the new configuration and improvements to the parking lot, the intent is to move the bus traffic, the bus drop-off to the back lot. There's also projected to be an increase in bus ridership. I believe that that count is going from 3 to 5. With the district busing more students to this site, obviously traffic is always a big concern, but increased bus ridership is helping to, kind of maintain the balance of vehicular traffic. And then there will also still be the ability for parents to utilize the parallel parking along Dean Avenue for drop-off. There's potential to use Baldwin for drop-off, as well as the existing south turnaround drive as well.
Thank you, Josh. Yes.
Just a quick question on traffic. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We all sat here a few years ago with the ring road at Edgewood, and the biggest concern was traffic movement and how people were going to get in and out, the buses, the queuing on Edgewood. And to the district's, great compliment, you guys have people out there, and it's a handful, including John Whitehead, in costume in the snow. But it's amazing what a couple people in a vest, it's great for the district. They're waving at the teachers, the kids love it, the parents love it. But just 2 or 3 people just directing a little traffic saves so much headache, so much congestion. So could you speak to maybe with some of these new configurations, do you have any plans to have a couple staff people out there, especially in the beginning, so people don't make that left turn that they're used to? Because I think that would go a long way for the neighborhood, and it's worked very well at Edgewood.
Yes,
And
thank
worked
you
at
very
high
much,
school, too.
Councilman
Yeah,
Stover.
good.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, as I mentioned, we will at least start whenever we open the new school, we're going to start with First Student, our bus contractor, where the buses are, to make sure that that traffic is regulated and appropriate, people coming in and out, and they can help us. And then we'll work with Principal Nordstrom to get Ravinia staff, and if necessary, district staff, to help along the other streets to make sure people are greeted friendly, in a friendly manner by our staff, and are helped along with parking and moving their cars along nicely. So the answer is yes.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else on traffic? Jackson, you want to say something? Go.
I might actually. So, as someone who's experienced a lot of the things that we've been talking about, I did not go to Ravinia, but I do live in Ravinia. I went to Red Oak.
Okay.
Me too.
And I did, yeah.
He did too.
And
He went
also,
there
as
when it-
someone who
he
goes to
went
the
there
high
when it
school
was
and
intense.
and also as someone who goes to the high school and has to deal with some of these traffic patterns, and as someone who drives past Indian Trail and Ravinia on my way home from the high school, it's not the concern to me isn't really that intersection right next to the school. It's more the intersection of Roger Williams and St. John's, because not only do we have a business district between the school and that intersection, but at the same time there's a railroad on the other side of that that intersection. So the buses are going to have to go through that business district where people are pulling in and out. There's a one-way pull-in parking lot, and then they will have to cross that railroad. And dealing with, surprisingly, kids from Ravinia do walk to and from school.
Good for them.
And I see it all the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of parents.
So there's a lot, that intersection becomes very hectic very quickly, especially since buses have to stop at that railroad. So even though that's outside the district, is there any way, there needs to be some held in, this intersection is going to become bizarre, and maybe routing buses that are going in a certain direction to this parking lot and this one, just a lot of consideration about that intersection and that six-way stop.
I think that's awesome insights. I will have to speak with our transportation department to make sure that we are really mindful of the addresses and the routes, and that we don't put all of the buses, the 3 to 5, on the exact same path out. And I think that's a great suggestion. So absolutely.
Now you know why Jackson's going to be chairman next month when I'm
looking forward to working for Jackson.
He'd be much better at it than I am.
Thank you.
Anything else, Jackson, or was that it?
No.
Great comment.
Okay.
Great.
Anybody else have questions? Because I do have some.
Are we just asking broad questions?
Sure, you can ask questions and they can answer.
Got
So,
So, I think my colleague kind of was reading my notes when staff gave comments, but.
there are no secrets, Danny.
As I kind of was reviewing everything and getting ready, I mean, the first thing that struck me is we're replacing a lot of green space with cement and concrete and buildings. And so I think the forestry's recommendation was you can afford to pare down a couple of parking spaces. I was doing the math, you're adding 30% increase in staff, but 103% increase in parking spaces. I guess in 2023, when global warming's a thing, is there any way that we can kind of pare that down and just have more green space? I guess that's my biggest concern with that I see. Everything else looks great.
Sure, Commissioner, thank you. So I'll start and then they'll finish. One of our commitments to the environment is our commitment to LEED status. At both of our middle schools, they're LEED Silver. We also have a commitment in the school district to solar panels on top of every roof where that could happen. At Ravinia, it's not feasible, but around the district, that is something. We also have electric car charging stations at our new schools that we're going to continue that because we really want to encourage our own staff to drive electric vehicles and anyone else. What we're seeing is an increase in staff members due to some of the increase in the complexity of some of the student needs. So we really want to make sure that we can get our staff all parked on campus, so none of our staff are parking anywhere in the neighborhood or anywhere in the business district. We are committed to the May Watts Park, which is a preserve and it's a nature preserve. That commitment will extend for hopefully another 100 years or more. And I will ask our engineers very specifically to talk about the greenery that we are going to be putting in.
Before you do that, I just want to make a comment. You can do LEED Silver with your eyes closed. It's not hard. I'm going to challenge you. I would say, the state requires any new building or anytime we do LEED, it's got to be gold, at least. I don't understand, and part of what I'm going to say is, you're doing some sustainable things by reusing the building. That's the most sustainable thing you can do, by the way, is reuse a building. But I don't think you're challenging your team enough if all you're doing is LEED silver. You should be easily able to do LEED gold with this building and any other building. And I appreciate that you're putting photovoltaics up on the roof. I'm not as impressed that that's your biggest bang for your buck in terms of sustainability. So it may be, can we do geothermal? Can we do, what are the other things you can do that really, I know the reason for doing photovoltaics because people walk by and because we've just had this discussion, they walk by, they see a solar array on the roof and they go, oh yeah, they're doing stuff, right? And yet there's a lot of other things that can and should be done that aren't apparent as visible to the passerby that have a greater impact for the dollar that you're spending. So I would really challenge you guys because, it's up to municipal government, it's up to the governmental agencies to really set a tone as to what it is that we're trying to do in terms of sustainability. You have an opportunity here. I would say push them as hard as you can. I appreciate that it's LEED, but like I said, LEED silver is really, your architect's shaking his head. It's pretty easy, isn't it, to hit LEED silver?
Well,
Come on up.
you got to go to the
Come on up
microphone,
to the
Stuart, and then
microphone.
Josh will.
Sorry, Stuart.
There's a few things probably worth talking about. I don't disagree LEED silver can be achievable with.
Low bar.
Yeah, I mean, base level LEED is low bar, and then
Right.
LEED silver requires some intentionality.
Okay.
We're also, I just want to mention, we've been talking about the exterior of the building because that's primarily why we're here. Much of the effort is to create a really awesome indoor learning environment that addresses indoor environmental quality issues, everything from air to lighting.
Which you need points for.
Which you can get points for. We're even going as far as, there's no credit for it in LEED, so LEED isn't also the end-all. Well building has something called circadian lighting,
Yeah.
which is a really important issue for young people, so we're incorporating ideas like that. And the way the ventilation system is being designed, the filtering, dual-stage filtering, bipolar ionization filtering, increased outdoor air percentage, and increased air circulation. So we're doing all the things that really impact student wellness and health. The spaces throughout the building are being designed so the social emotional learning framework for the building is really well crafted. So there's a lot of things about creating a green school. I just came back from the Green Schools Conference, by the way. And so there were three main topics, obviously health and wellness, security, and then obviously all the things you're talking about, which are reducing the impact on the environment.
So are you, as part of this, are you looking for innovation credits from LEED as part of what you're trying to do here? Because I hear a lot of good things that you mentioned. They're not necessarily, on LEED's checklist, but LEED does have a program where you can apply for an innovation credit and get points for those things. And in fact, it sounds like some of these may be good candidates for that, right?
Yeah, we'll certainly look at that. Yeah, building as a teaching tool is one of them. But yeah, there are LEED innovation credits that are documented that for LEED for schools that we can take a close look at and see if we're already hitting those.
Okay. Sorry, Danny. Anything else?
That was mine.
I'd love to have a conversation about LEED at some point, but not.
Absolutely. And
not from the dais.
do we want to
I
talk?
don't love it.
I thought it might be good also since there was stormwater management around the site. Did you want to talk about that at all?
And I'm assuming that those are going to go to LEED credits hopefully as well.
Yes. So from a sustainability standpoint, yes, we are increasing impervious area with the development. With that, we will also be working with the city engineers to satisfy the requirements of the WDO as amended by the city. So part of some of the green infrastructure that we have proposed is similar to Northwood. We are proposing as an alternate the use of permeable pavers in some of the parking bays. We will also have an infiltration garden on the southwest corner of the lot. This will function as an infiltration basin as well as a detention facility. Beneath the parking lot, we are proposing an underground storm trap system. This system is intended to be designed so that it sits on a concrete slab with cores in it to also allow surface runoff to infiltrate back into the normal groundwater table. And all of this is occurring on a site that currently does not have any form of stormwater management.
Thanks, Josh. Steve, you got questions?
No, thank you.
Adam?
Just most of what I was going to ask was answered already. Okay. But with a PUD, there is a requirement for a public benefit. And I think and maybe I missed something, but it looks like the proposed public benefit is the project itself. That we're a school that benefits the public. But as I understand the ordinance, the public benefit can't be the project itself. So I'm not sure how.
Is that accurate?
Is that accurate? Because we've come up that one.
Is that accurate? You know, we kind of had that with the affordable housing
Correct.
project on Deerfield Road.
I do think that the public benefit could be satisfied by the public purpose of the school, Mr. Chairman. I mean, ultimately, it's a council decision on those matters. Some of the public benefits that one could argue are just some of the environmental aspects that they just talked about. Those are eligible to be thought of as public benefit. But that would be my thoughts on that matter. Yep. And if there's anything, I don't know if.
Well, yeah, it's like
Dr. Luke felt
Sure.
something else to say.
Thank you. While I agree, obviously, with Director Fontaine, additional public benefits include a playground that is accessible, that currently does not exist, and that is something that's new. It is going to be a new benefit for the citizens of Highland Park and for the people of District 112 and Highland Park and Highwood. So the accessible playground is something you find in other cities adjacent to us, in other villages, in other school districts. That's one of the many additional public benefits. In addition, we are retaining Métis Watts Park, which since 1928 has benefited our public and public of so many nature lovers and environmentalists, and we are going to be perpetuating that forever. And we'll just say those are two additional public benefits.
You said accessible playground, it's accessible to people who.
With disabilities.
People with disabilities, sorry. But is that open to the public outside of school hours?
Yes, all of our playgrounds are open to the public outside of school hours. We have fencing for security, but we do not have lock-ins. And we're proud to continue as a community partner to allow young people in all of the schools, private, public, and even from outside of our community to come in and partake.
I swear I've seen you on the swing at Red Oak.
That was me.
Well, that was you, okay.
No, that was me too.
All right. That it?
Yeah, that's it, thank you.
Marissa?
Just one question. I saw in the report the construction's supposed to be, 2 years or a year and a half?
I'm so happy to share with you, Commissioner, that our revised estimate, subject to the world and our universe, construction, God willing, and you willing, City Council willing, will start this June and July 2023. And at Ravinia School, it will run until October of 2024. We will then move back in 2 months later, following the winter break.
Great.
Okay,
They're going to Green Bay.
The Ravinia Raccoons get to join the raccoons who live at Green Bay in Sunset Park.
The live ones.
Little attempted humor, Commissioner Hecht. Yeah, Green Bay will be the swing site for Ravinia School following Braeside School. And Elm Place will continue to be the swing site for Indian Trail, and then Sherwood, and then Wayne Thomas. And Red Oak would also go to Green Bay. Yes, sir.
Vice Chair.
So these are totally different questions. As much as I love seeing the windows that are on the building, and it concerns me that they're so low to the ground, that, yes, now we have security to make sure an active shooter can't get into the building. Does that keep them, I worry that now they're gonna go around to the side of the building and where they see some windows is just try to get in there. Now I
Or shoot
assume,
them through there.
well, that's what I mean. They're gonna try to shoot out the windows and go in through there. And maybe they use bulletproof glass of some special kind. I don't know, but
Vice Chair Moore, since, for many years, and specifically since 2014, the district's been engaged in security audits, 2014, 2018, and then again in 2022. We were engaged in a re-audit in 2022 in June that was authorized, and obviously the horrible tragedy of July 4th fell upon our town and our people. The Board of Education committed to investing an additional $6 million in hardening of the facility's security upgrades at every campus, including the campuses that are being used temporarily as swing sites. I can't comment publicly on the specifics of the window treatments. I can say window treatments that are accessible are being treated. I
so
hope
my
that's okay.
point is that it is being, that concern is being considered.
Furthermore, my final point on that, the answer is yes. Our architects and our engineers met with the board's security consultants on specific page-by-page design elements of these schools, and we also went back to Northwood and Edgewood. So the answer is unequivocally yes, and we share your concerns.
Wonderful, thank you.
And it's a balancing, I'd just say it's probably a balancing act, because you don't want them to feel like they're going to school in a prison,
No, of course, of
right?
course.
So
of
hardening
course.
targets is hard.
Now I'm gonna go totally different direction. And I actually wasn't gonna bring this up until you brought it up. But the Métis Watts Park, there actually was an Eagle Scout project done there in about 2012. A Chris Armstrong was our Eagle Scout from Troop 324. And he redid a bunch of the pathways and took out some poison ivy there. And I don't know that there's a sign for him there. But if you get another Eagle Scout coming in to do the project, it would be really nice to commemorate them both.
Vice Chair Moore, I may send you an email privately to reach out to you to get that specific information. The answer is absolutely yes. And I also want to share, I met with a gentleman named John Zarin, who back in the 80s was one of the fifth graders who worked with the principal back then to do this. So not only do I welcome this, we will honor and commemorate and acknowledge anybody and everybody that's been part of
Wonderful.
this. Thank you for bringing that up.
No problem.
What else? Anything?
Actually, one last quick, we were talking about public benefit. And I think I recall that people park down at the school in the parking lot for Ravinia and stuff, right? And they can go to the beach from there. I mean, I would think we could consider that, if you allow that to continue to happen, that would also be a public benefit, I would think.
Sure, I didn't want to brag to Commissioner Hecht about how beneficial this is to the public, but I thank you for adding those two.
So you public benefit parking for a private entity.
Well, but to go to the beach and stuff, too, you can
Well,
park there to go to the
certainly
beach.
at Brayside, it's parking for.
No, I appreciate that. Absolutely, yeah. No, absolutely.
All right, so that's it?
Yes.
So I have a couple questions, and they're all over the map.
You've already been doing that.
Nah, I still have more.
It's a big project.
The lighting, is it going to be on all night, all the lights all night, some of the lights all night? How does that work?
Mr. Chairman, I will answer this way. Of course, I don't know the specifics of our timers or our lights. You know what I mean? I've got an amazing staff that does it. What I will say, and I'll be corrected if needed, we will do what we currently do everywhere else. And I don't know what else to say other than that's a great question, as all of the questions have been. I think we'll just do whatever we do.
If you can get an answer, that's great. I mean, I know at the high school, they made a very, that they responded to that type of question by putting, that the lights dim to 30%, I think, of capacity, and there's a motion detector.
You're talking about outdoor lights?
Yes, I'm talking about outdoor lights. I'm not talking about the indoor lights. I'm talking about the outdoor lights. The ones that are going to impact the neighbors, right? So at the high school, the Vine Street lot, the lights at a certain time, I forget what time it is, might be 6 p.m. or.
Depends on the season.
Yeah, it may depend on the season. They dim to 30% of their capacity. And then.
And they're low.
And they're low. They're low, yeah, they're like 12 feet, I think.
Max.
And then if if there's a motion detection, they power up to full throttle, let's say. So I think what I'd like to see, because I know you're gonna have to come back anyway, even with findings of fact. Huh?
I said, I hope so.
You are going to have to come back. And I would use this for other schools as well, because most of them are in residential neighborhoods. Take a look at Vine Street lot. Look at the height of those poles. And I'm sure that the high school, I know you have a great working relationship with Dr. Law's team as well. Have your facilities guys talk to their facilities guys and try, I think it would be worthwhile to see if you can replicate that. Because I think it would be of some, even though we may not have a lot of neighbors here, it would be of some solace to them to know that the thing is going to be shining like a beacon, all night long to them. Right?
Appreciate that. I will say, we'll do anything, obviously, that we need to, but we do operate, as you know, 10 schools, 12 campuses that were not new with respect to the commission or the city. We just built 2 schools, so we'll find out what we are doing, if that's also okay.
That's fine.
And make sure that we do that as well.
As long as, what I would ask also is, have you gotten complaints on those schools, which,
We have not.
okay, good.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want to say something.
Yes,
Steph
sir.
will have to follow up with Dr. Lupfel as well. I understand that the District 113, there were some difficulties with some of the lighting arrangements on Vine that needed adjustment, and so I don't want to.
Well, and that's fine, they can, that's why I suggested that that's why I suggested they talk it out, because they've learned some lessons from it,
as well.
right?
Okay.
Are you replacing all the windows, just so I'm clear, in the building, or are we keeping some of the existing windows?
Keeping some of the existing. Any of them up high are getting replaced because of the interaction with the roofing.
Okay.
The front central facade because of the reconfiguration of the flooring.
So
And then obviously the new building's way out, covers, a third of the existing building. The addition does, so those will obviously.
So the
be-
existing windows, they're medium bronze anodized frames as well?
The existing windows have that browner beige gray tone.
Are they're painted, they're steel windows, or?
I don't know for sure, but many of them
But
I
you'll
think
make
are.
them all look the same,
It's gonna look,
right?
the building will have a uniform
Right,
feel
thank
and
you.
look, yeah.
And then lastly, and maybe it's my own misunderstanding, the kitchen, Mike.
Yes.
The kitchen.
Start on this one, if I may.
So I thought you guys were building a central kitchen over where the warehouse was at Indian Trail, right?
We are.
And so is this a kitchen? Is it a servery? Is it the lack of a better term, the cafeteria for the school? What is it?
So one of the cornerstone projects here that also increases sustainability by using reusable materials and reducing and removing waste in lunchrooms all across the district, and removing a decades-old equity issue across the school district with different types of lunches for different types of students. The central production kitchen, which will be built on Indian Trails property, is going to be providing a hot food service for the district. At the schools where we don't have a production kitchen, so not at Red Oak and Northwood, where we also have production kitchens, but at every other school, including Ravinia, we are building a servery that is going to be able to warm things up and have dishwashers and really put the final touches on the food, and also be able to make sure all of our cutlery and trays and stuff are able to be used. Stuart, you want to add to anything?
How does that get delivered, and when during the day?
It gets delivered during the school day.
Okay. And is there like a loading area, or does it come in through the front door?
It's going to come
where's the
through
truck
that.
come?
Over at Ravinia, it's going to go to that red box on the top, the top of the red box.
So it pulls in.
It's going to pull in by Millennial Hall, which is a protected area that's sort of exclusive on our property off of Roger Williams. It won't impact anybody in the community.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I don't think I need anything more on the kitchen. I think I understand. When I heard kitchen, I knew I know from doing this for 30 years, and you're right about the equity issue, that we had talked, that you would consider building a commissary. So that's why I asked.
We've been referring to them as finishing kitchens,
Yeah,
so
thank
meaning the food is cooked 75%, flash frozen, brought over and rethermed, all
Yeah.
that.
That's good. That's good. That's what you need to kind
Would
of
that be
tell us.
public benefit too?
Huh?
I think that's
No.
public, no?
Sorry.
I'm trying, man.
You keep trying. I think you're okay personally with public benefit. All right, Jackson, you got any questions before we go? Okay. Let's hear from your neighbors if there's, I see we have some company. If you want to say something, you don't have to say something, but please come on up. I'll swear you in and give you 3 minutes to speak to the commission.
This was on the floor. I don't know if someone left it.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
We left their booth.
uh-oh, it's probably the lawyer from before. He's got all their trade secrets.
Aren't you guys supposed to be in bed by now?
I would hope so. I'm leaving for Columbus very early tomorrow. Could you
My
raise
name
your
is
right
Dave
hand?
Hannis.
Do you promise to tell the truth? So, you
Right,
whole
the
truth
right
and
hand.
nothing but the truth? It's late. Okay, your name, please.
Dave Hannis. I'm a resident. I live across the street.
Yep.
Can I have some pictures
Uh,
of the first thing is.
You need to be by the
You
microphone.
can stay there.
And you need to talk to me, not to the doctor, to Dr.
They had this referendum that everybody loved and wanted, and they got it.
Right.
They're taking the park property and they're exchanging it for non-park property. That park, can we see the picture of the park? The park that's on Dean Avenue, that they're gonna put a building on it, that has always been a park for years. I don't know how long you people have been here. Years ago, they used to ice it off in the winter. There was ice, you go there,
Ice skating.
ice skate. Right now, the local residents, they go in there, they play football, basketball, or they play ball, and people walk their dogs and they socialize, right? So it's basically, it's a park. I mean, it's a used park. Most of the parks aren't used. They're presently, can I see the other picture with the building on it?
The site plan, that one?
That one.
Can you make it bigger?
There
we go.
The new addition, that's going smack in the existing park, right? And they're presumably gonna have a walkway that's gonna be the remains of the park. My feeling is, and I've seen the additions being put on this thing, building, you can see they extended out and they went this way and they went that way. The original building is over here. I would appreciate if they would put the new addition, where you see the blacktop and the new addition there, that space, put it in there, that's your Kincaid Road, you know where Kincaid Road is there? There's infamous, and there never got changed.
Right.
But always Kincaid hasn't been converted. Take that space, convert it, and put your building on that spot. And we can have our park.
Okay.
We like, there's, the other couple things there, recently, when they closed the school, they came in and put a great big air purifier. And when they put it in, with all my windows closed, I could hear it. They came back and they took it out. And they worked in and they redid it, and it still made noise. I think they came back and, I shouldn't be laughing. I think they took it out again, right? All I ask is, I don't want to hear anybody's, when you move in the neighborhood or anybody moves in the neighborhood, I don't want to hear your air purifier, your air conditioner, or anything else, right? The community is a mature community with old homes, old trees, park-like settings. That's kind of what we bought, all right? Yeah, we like to have a nice little school, and that school is kind of idyllic, the way it is right now. The other, what was the third thing? The most important thing is I would think it'd be nice if we could keep our park, basically. And there's density. You guys are swapping out, you're taking the parkland, increasing the density, and then increasing the density on the neighborhood. Nobody else can increase our density. We got to say, we got this much, we want to add 20% more. You should stay, if you want to do your density, compacted in that spot by putting the building on the backside.
Thank you.
And you are increasing the density by quite a bit, aren't they, chief?
Mr.,
I mean, it's not a minor amount.
no, well,
I mean, it's like,
we'll address that in a second. Thank you, Mr. Hannis.
Yeah.
We're going to move on.
there could be more, but I gotta go sleep too.
Thank you. Anybody else who would like to speak? So, Stuart, why don't you come up and tell, just very briefly, why you can or cannot put that addition in the area that was just discussed?
Sure. So this addition, so
I think he's talking about the addition on the, what I'll call the south there, that, no, which one? Well, there's several new additions. There's three of them.
I'm talking about that big one that's in the park.
That's the one on the south there, right? West, okay. Well, I'm calling it south because it's down on the page. And north is up. And most architects look, north is up and for most architects. So whatever is there at the bottom of the page, why couldn't that go someplace else, right?
No, that one I'm happy with.
Okay, so which one, Mr. Hannis?
Is it,
CG Avenue, it says new addition, the biggest.
That one. That's at the bottom of the page.
But that's right in the middle of the park, existing park that people.
Okay.
that's
That's
not
the
the
one I
Macy Watts
just,
part.
that's what I've asked
He
him
wants
about.
to move that one
Up to where the,
where the other small.
right,
On the other side of the building,
right. I got it.
which might, if I would consolidate the buildings and tie everything together.
Okay, let him answer the question. I asked him why it can't go there, so let him answer that question.
yeah, so it's a classroom addition and it needs to be able to connect to the corridors that exist that connect within the existing building. And we can't push it right up against the building because we have to have daylight and we do have some operable windows, even though we have a great mechanical system. So the addition is going to have to be offset from the building. So it's about as tight as you can get up against existing building, given the size and the square footage and the number of rooms we have to fit in. To do that at the back of the building, if you look at the massing and the way it's configured, it basically doesn't fit. You can't put it back there and make the connections into the corridors and have the type of circulation that would be necessary. Frankly, also at the time of design, the school district did not own that land, so we really didn't want to put a building on land they didn't own. So fortunately, that has changed. The parking should not, if we were to flip that, we'd have to put the parking in front of the building. I think that would be worse because we're going to be we are designing a building that's going to work really well with the existing. It is the remaining green space on the site. And even though that's referred to as a park, it's not necessarily designed as a park.
Sir, thank you.
So it's part of
our meeting, not yours.
So I think I get that. It's just, the addition can't go back there without offsetting the parking in front of the building. So there's only so much usable land. It has to be developed in a way that's the most favorable in the end solution. And this is the way that's been achieved. We've expanded the play areas in the back, which has been discussed already. We're maintaining the historic park. So there is a lot of green space, outdoor student movement benefit that's being created. But
Can you show us on this map where the Métis Watts Park is, so we're all clear?
Yeah. No, here, let me do it.
Thank you.
So it's actually. So I'm gonna first trace the road and then kind of the park.
Thank you.
So this is the road.
Right,
And
that's
then
all.
That's Baldwin.
The park basically wraps all the way in this area up against there. And so it kind of meanders in there. So the green space is maintained back there, yes.
So on the other side, the bottom.
On the Dean Road side, let's call it that.
Yeah, on the Dean Road side, where the big part of the addition is, that's not a park.
Right, that's like the front yard of the
Just
school.
the front yard.
It's the front yard of the school. They do use it.
It's been the school's property.
Yeah, they use it they do use it for some outdoor play. That is correct.
And as the school property, you're not changing the access to that.
Correct.
To that part of the property. But as the school property, like any other any other property owner, you have the right within the ordinance to develop property that you own, like any other, like I said, like any other landowner, right? Okay. What about the noise? You want to briefly talk about things you're going to do to keep the noise from going off the property? And I would just state for the record that the ordinance at the city of Highland Park says, I think 55 decibels at the property line or something like that. So, I know all the neighbors in my area are out there with their iPhones taking noise readings. So I know that we're serious about it.
Right. Yes, the project's being designed to meet that. The mechanical equipment is sheltered in between the, so even though you see from the street slope roof forms,
right,
they're on the front and the back, there are two sections, and then the middle is flat.
Right.
So mechanical equipment's going in there. Much of the mechanical equipment, frankly, is inside the dormers of those slope roof areas. So there's not a lot of outdoor mechanical equipment, but which is any of it that is there, like the existing transformer, which is being replaced, and the new generator, it'll be designed to meet that. It'll be screened around it. But we can come back and confirm the 50 decibel.
Please. And the air purifier or the temporary equipment that Mr. Hannes was speaking about, I'm assuming that was that there for COVID? For COVID safety, or what was that?
It was an effort to make it more comfortable for our students and staff for the first 4 to 6 weeks of school for convention air conditioning that we had temporarily at all the schools. And we apologize for the noise.
Now that those units are going to either be inside or in a well that it's blocked off by the roof line, correct?
That is correct.
Right, and that noise will go up, not out.
That noise will not be there. That's correct.
Okay. All right, and the density, the issue with the density, are they building more building? Yes, they're building more building. But they also have more land. So actually, the density, the floor area ratio is less even with the additions probably than it is today without that additional land.
That's correct.
But Carl is going to verify that.
Well, and this is the decision that our community made when we chose to not keep all of our neighborhood schools. We rather decided to spend less money, have a smaller referendum, and reconfigure a few of the schools and close some of the other ones. And when you close some of those schools, we have to enlarge some of the other ones, and that's what's happening here.
And I will tell you, having done research on this for the school district, one of the issues that we always heard was, ideally you want a 4-section school because it enhances collaboration and educational outcomes. And in this case, they're going from a very small 2-section school to at least a moderately sized 3-section school, which is a good thing educationally.
Thank you.
Right? And I guess that's a public benefit.
Thank you.
I did learn something, Mike, in all those meetings that I went to.
Appreciate that.
All right. Anything else? Okay. So we have some ways we can proceed. We can we've asked for clarifications on a number of things, right? Which hopefully you have taken good notes, because I haven't necessarily. We can ask the staff to draft findings of fact that we can discuss either at next meeting, but most likely at the first meeting in April, because they will need some time to respond. We can just ask them to come back and not do findings of fact. So it's either a motion, the first motion would be, if somebody wants to make a motion to address, to ask staff to develop findings of fact in support or denial, depending on how you want to go, of these matters. The other choice is just to continue it straight. So what's the pleasure of the commission?
So
Yes, sir.
I would move that we ask the staff to draft findings of fact recommending approval of a special use permit in the nature of a preliminary and final planned unit development for a project to construct additions to an existing school building, Ravinia School, and other structures, including design review, plat of consolidation, and variations for floor area, subdivision code, landscaping, lighting, and other variation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Corporation Council, do we need to separate? We're going to have to take design review separately, right, at some point? But is it okay to have it in this motion for this? Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Mr. Fontaine?
Commissioner Mantis,
Aye.
Commissioner Brockman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kirsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Hecht,
Aye.
Vice Chair Moore,
Aye.
and Chairman Hainsworth.
Aye. It's 5 ayes, 6 ayes, no nays. Motion carries. Yes,
Just to
Councilman
let you
Sullivan.
know, I probably will not be here that night. It's election night. Just letting you know.
You got something to do?
Maybe, maybe not, we'll see.
That's okay.
So we do need to continue the public hearing.
Yes, next thing is to continue the public hearing to April 5th, is it? What is it? April what?
The 4th.
4th.
Let's just check, wait, let's check,
That's correct.
is it April 4th?
April 4th, it's moved by Commissioner Hecht, seconded by Commissioner Mantis.
Commissioner
Is that a
Mantis?
voice vote? Or is it
Commissioner
a roll
Mantis.
call?
Yep.
This would be roll call.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Mantis,
Aye.
Commissioner Buckman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kirsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Hecht,
Aye.
Vice Chair Moore,
Aye.
Chairman Hainsworth.
Aye. 6
Ayes have it.
ayes, no nays. This matter will be continued to April 4th.
7 PM, this room.
In this room, notice is actual, there'll be no additional notice. Thank you, Mr. Annis, we appreciate you being here. Okay, other business, is there any administrative design review?
No, no report, Mr. Chairman.
The next regular meeting will be March 21st, 2023. Would you like to give us a brief preview, Mr. Burhop, of what we will be seeing?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So there will be the continued 700 Park Avenue West project by Larry Hillman for the parking lot. And then there will be a zoning text amendment by the city for tobacco shops, indoor smoking-related uses.
Oh, boy.
The city council did pass what's referred to colloquially as a red flag amendment on that in January, I think. So we'll be bringing a zoning text amendment for that. And then the main thing I want to say to everyone is we're really hoping for 100, well, we always hope for 100% attendance, but our corporation council will be providing their annual legal training at the March 21st
It will
meeting.
be the Hart and Marcus show. For a while.
So please,
Right?
please do come.
So please make
Support
an effort
yearly
to be here.
training.
All right.
Yes,
Okay,
Mr.
case
Chairman?
briefing?
I do not, Mr. Chairman, not this.
Any business from the public? Seeing no public, there can be no business from the public. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Heck, second by?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you, guys.